sex, semen retention, and celibacy. Now, most of the stuff that I'm going to speak to is actually going to be from experience, which most of the time it is. Anyways, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. So, there's different reasons for each one, of course. I guess we'll start off with celibacy real quick, being celibate. Now, most people want to be celibate till they get married and then they want to have sex. Now, if you're only going to have sex a couple times, then that's fine. Pretty much for a baby or just to try it because you've never had it before, which is fine. But then if you get married and then you just have sex all the time, you're just making yourself, it's just slavery. You're just enslaving yourself to some man-made concept for marriage and just having sex, just putting it off, basically. If it's not on your mind, then it's fine, which it probably shouldn't be or wouldn't be. But if you just wait till you're married and then have sex all the time, what's the point of doing that big hold off? So you have to be real clear, and I don't really know too many people that do that anyway. Usually their life is structured a little bit different, and same with their thought concepts. So that can be dived in specifically depending on the person and the details. But again, you're wasting your time. I'm telling you, you're just masking a situation because you're putting off something that you kind of want to do till later, basically. So why wait? Because you're putting an event that you want to do in the future when you could just do it now and experience now and per se get it over with. So semen retention and sex, I'm going to tell you flat out. Sex is an impulse, but more so it's only in the head. Almost 99% of the time. How do I know this? Because it's a thought that actually makes you horny. Same thing with making you excited. Same thing with making you sad. It's starts with external stimulation, and then you brew that thought up in your head, basically. Because that's how it starts. So if you ever have a time where you don't have thoughts, which is where you want to be, because when you don't have thoughts, it's the best feeling in the world. Way better than sex. It doesn't even compare. Sex is a physical phenomena, whereas not having thoughts is life. Because there's nothing blocking you from life, because that is life when you tap into it. Nothing feels better than that. It can't. It literally can't. Because that is life. When you don't have no thoughts, you're not thinking of anything, you're not thinking about sex, and it's the best feeling ever. Nothing can feel better than that. Ever. Not possible. So, when you stop having sex, you're going to want it less. And that also goes with, not reading sexual things, because sexual texts can very well get you off and make you horny and subduing your thoughts. And it's the same thing with anything, even watching sexual stuff, like through a screen. so forth. Maybe seeing something in real life that won't affect you as much as reading a book or watching something on the phone or like watching pornography. So it's a little bit different as you would see like just people having sex in real life or just like naked woman per se or whatever, vice versa for a woman. But it's only when the thought enters your head. Because if you're thoughtless, I'm going to tell you now, if you're in awareness, meditation, what people want to call it, also other things, nirvana, if you're in enlightenment, or if you're just, they're all the same, if you're in the Jesus Christ consciousness, and this isn't necessarily a mentality that you have to embody, because it's just a feeling, and again, it's a thoughtless state. So in this thoughtless state, you're not thinking about sex. I've never once thought about sex in this state. Or, sorry, I didn't mean to say think. But it's the same thing because I'm not thinking. But I never once felt an urge for sex in this state. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't. So, this is brewed up and conjured in the head when you think about it. So I don't really care about not having sex and having sex. The whole thing is when you have sex and you release, because at the end of the day, it's why most people have sex is for the climax. When you have the climax, your energy stores up in the head. It goes up. It only goes up and down. When you release, your energy goes down, and then it has to reload to the top. When it goes to the top, magnificent things happen. Also, the longer that you don't have sex, the less you think about it, the less that you want it. It's very true. The moment that you have sex, even on semen retention, even if you're not climaxing, the body likes to do things over and over and repeatedly once it does something. It doesn't even necessarily matter what it is. The body's naturally cling to addiction. Not that it's necessarily bad. It's a habitual thing. It does it naturally. But if you have sex, even on semen retention, for the fellas out there and women, you're going to want more and more and more of it. Once you have sex, it's like a trap, and per se, you're going to want more and more and more of it. It doesn't stop. Again, because why I just explained. So, it's going to be harder to get out of, especially if you're climaxing. You're going to want more and more and more of it, and it's going to be a never-ending cycle. And then it's going to be on your head all the time. Then you're going to want sex all the time, and it's never going to end. But there is something far greater than sex, far greater, and it is the thoughtless state. You won't be thinking about sex, and it's undescribable. The feeling is irresistible too. Once you get that feeling, you just won't want it to stop. You'll want to keep going after it and maintain that feeling. So when you have sex, that energy to stay in that state of awareness, thoughtlessness, drains. It drains. It goes down and it goes out. Whereas this state, not having sex and having that urge and impulse, it just, again, it's indescribable, and it doesn't mess with you, and you feel so good to be in that state. Most people are talking out their ass. And actually, you feel better not chasing that all the time, going after it all the time. But once you crack into it again, unless there's only a few, and I mean a few people that can just like succumb it and get over it. You're gonna be again on that same hamster wheel, that same addiction again. It's pretty elusive. So that's why people stop having sex and go after this, because this is a much better feeling. That sex is the most primal beginning level thing there is, and it's also probably the hardest thing to overcome for some people, or it can be very easy. It just depends. You know what I mean? Anybody's life who's always after sex at the end of the day is miserable. They're not going to tell you this, and they're very upset, or whatever other vice versa is the word is, because I've seen it, and you can see it for yourself. They might not tell you this, they might not say it, but why are all these people, they can even have money and be well off, even pretty much be in good health, so to speak, but their mental health would be messed up because they're just so focused on women all the time. But little do they know there's a lot more to life. It's so beyond it, it's indescribable. It's like being in heaven versus being in like a sexual hell, so to speak. So also, one last thing before we end this video. It's There was one more thing that I wanted to say, but when I was talking about that, I talked about that, then I forgot. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna hold up for any more. There was one more thing, but I don't know. It was a good thing though too. That energy rises up and it stays up. That means different things are gonna happen in your body instead of releasing it all the time. I'm not sure if that was exactly it. But subscribe to the channel. We got most of it out. Probably gonna make similar videos like this in the future. Have a nice one. Thanks for tuning in.